So the shir this week is still not about the parsha. Tonight is my wife's second yortzeit. Last year we had a big event, and we had 7 siyum hashasin and ksiva sefer Torah. This year everything is different. So tonight I will get together only with my family. Not only my late wife, Zechrein Lavrocha, her family will not be with us. None of my Talmidim will be with us. Only I, my children and grandchildren, and no one else. But we will get together, and we will once again make a siyum hashas. So the shir today is dedicated to the concept of Kadish that we say Leilui Neshama, and other mitzvahs that we do Leilui Neshama. How do the mitzvahs we perform on this world affect the neshamas that are in Olam HaNeshamas, in Gan Eden? So this is a fascinating sugya, and it touches upon many different areas in halacha, in hashkafa, in Jewish thought. It is somewhat remotely associated with the coronavirus as well, because one of the topics we will touch upon is, could you say Kadish for more than one niftar? Many of us, including me, during this crisis, said Kadish for other families. Just this week I was still saying Kadish for a person that passed away in America, a wonderful person, and he had only 2 daughters. And where they lived, there were no minyanim. So I took upon myself to say Kadish for him. So, Shin Ein Vav, Yoredeh, Hilchas Avela, Siv Dalet, that Amo brings, that it is very important to daven Leilui Nishmas HaMeisim. That means you daven for the Amid. You're a Shliach Tzibor, especially Motzei Shabbos. The Iker Chashivas is Motzei Shabbos. And also saying Kadish Basara. So let me explain, what does Kadish Basara mean? So literally translated, Kadish Basara is the last Kadish. So what's unique about the last Kadish? So according to the Mekabolim, the tefillah is separated into 4 sections, especially tefillah shachris. We know that there are 4 oilimis, 4 different worlds. And when the Mekabolim speak about 4 worlds, they don't mean Saturn and Jupiter and Mars and Venus. No. They mean 4 different concepts. Zu lefonim zu in Rochnius. It's not the worlds that we see with our telescope. It's not the planets or the stars or other celestial bodies. It's Daled Oilimis, which are Oilam Asiyah, which is the realm in which we live and we die. Oilam Asiyah is our world, which we experience on a daily basis. Lemala mimeno Yitzira. Lemala mimeno Bria. And all the way up there is Atzilus. So I don't want to go into Kabbalistic concepts, but Atzilus is so high, we don't get there. We don't touch there. So Tfilas Shachar, up to Baruch She'omer Azayla Masiyah, Psuka de Zimra is Yitzira. Kriya Shema Ve'berchosei was Bria. And the most important section of the Tfilah, goes without saying, is the Shmoines, the Tfilas Amida. Until after Kadish Teskabel, that is Oilam Hatzilis. Kadish Basra is the Kadish we say after Kadish Teskabel. Lefi Nosach Ashkenaz, it's after Oleinu. Lefi Sfarad, it's after Shiroi Shel Yohim. But that is what we call Kadish Basra, the last Kadish. And why is that the most important Leilui Neshama? Because that comes back to Asiyah, which is our realm, and it is associated with Tchiyas HaMeisim, and that is why that is the Kadish, which we define as Kadish Yosim. There are 4 different forms and formulas of Kadish, as you all know. Kadish Teskabel, which is Kadish Sholem, Chotzi Kadish, Kadish Derabonon, Al Yisrael, and then there's Kadish Yosim. So the most important Kadish, goes without saying, is Kadish Teskabel. But for the Neshamas, we say Kadish Yosim, and that is Kadish Bas. And why do we say that Kadish? L'toivus HaNeshamas, for the benefit of the deceased, of our loved ones that are no longer with us, and they are in Olam Esilyonim, and we do it for them. So we learn Mishnayos for them. We daven for the Amid on the yard side. first 11 months, and we say Kadish. What do we have to bear in mind? Minhag Olam, we do it for them. Rabbi Eliyahu Ragola was one of the greatest Gedolim going back almost 200 years. And in his Tzavo, it's just printed in the introduction to a Sefer, Shalas Shuvas Yad Eliyahu. There is a shocking statement, and he says, I want you to say Kaddish for me, he writes to his children. But b'shum ponav oifen, don't have kavona, don't bear in mind that you're saying it Leilui Nishmosi, because then it's worth nothing. It is void of any importance. You need to say Kaddish with only one thing in mind, she is Gadel v'yeskadei shemei Rabo, nothing else. The Neshama has benefit in a totally indirect way, but you should not have in mind you're saying the Kaddish for me. And that's a big chiddush. Goes against Minhag Olam. So there's a Sefer Salmas Chaim for Rabbi Yosef Chaim Zonnefeld. When I quote Sforim many times, I give some background. Because if you're going to look for the Sefer, you're going to check it. That's a very strange Sefer. And the tshuvas of this great Gadol are totally different than anything else we know. One-liners. So every tshuva is one line, 2 lines, and he almost never quotes sources. So how did this strange Sefer came to be? I'll tell you how it came to be. Rabbi Yosef Chaim Zonnefeld was the Rav of Yerushalayim, a true Gadol and a Gevaldig Tzaddik. And in the minyan he davened every day in the morning. One of the wonderful Jews that davened in that same minyan was Reb Shlomo Sobol. And every day he took some scrap paper, some little piece of paper, and wrote shilas and stuck them under Rabbi Yosef Chaim Zonnefeld's talis. And before Rav Zonnefeld left shul, he saw those little notes and he scribbled his responses to those shilas, and he left them on that very same space. And Reb Shlomo Sobol, goes without saying, collected those notes, and then ultimately he printed them. Shalosh Tshuvas Salmas Chaim. So that is why this Sefer is so different than what we always call a Shalosh Tshuvas. It's totally different in style and in form. Salmas Chaim Yordei Semenayin. Reb Shlomo Sobol asked Reb Yosef Chaim Zonnefeld, when we say Kaddish for the deceased, do we have in mind we're doing for them? Maybe that diminishes the importance of the Kaddish because it's not Lishma. Rabbi Yosef Chaim simply says, well, we do it for them. And it's Kibbud Avayim, which is a great mitzvah. So why would that in any way diminish the cheshivas of the Kaddish? I mean, maybe it should add on the cheshivas of the Kaddish. So we are doing this as a tremendous chesed for the neshamas, and we're mekayim the mitzvah of Kibbud Avayim. So why would that be a problem? And I think Rabbi Yosef Chaim Zonnefeld is so right. It seems to be, goes without saying. But in all this forum, primarily the Mekabolim, it is such a simple assumption. We do it for the neshamas. The Ben Ish Chai, Rabbi Yosef Chaim of Baghdad, was one of the greatest Gedolim of his era in Halacha and in Kabbalah. And a Shalosh Tshuvas L'shoin Lemudim Chelik Beisim and Tezvov. Not only is it clear that we say Kaddish and we learn Mishnayos for them, he even formulated a tefillah of his own, what we are supposed to say when we learn for them and we daven for them. And in this tefillah we clearly say we're doing this Le'ili Nishmois Ploini Ben Ploini. In most Mishnayos you'll find in your shuls, at the beginning of the Mishnayos, there's a tefillah that we say Lifnei HaLimud and a tefillah that we say after the limud, and we clearly ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu that just should be Le'ilui Nishmasam. One of the other great Sephardi Gedolim was the Kaf HaChaim, and his Sefer on Shulchan Aruch HaChaim is also an unbelievable shiluv, a combination of Halacha and Kabbalah. He was great both in Halacha and Kabbalah. And Siman Nun-Hey. Nun-Hey is the Siman dealing with Halachas of Kadish. Sif Koten Lamed. He writes that if a person says Kadish, not for his own parents, but for a stranger, and he's paid to say Kadish, then every day in the morning he should say, and he needs to verbalize this, that all the Kadeshim I will say today should be Le'ilui Nishmas Ploini Ben Ploini. So all these sources clearly indicate it's not a problem at all if we do bear in mind that was saying Kadish Leilui Nishbas Ploini Velo Kedivrei Yad Eliyahu. Darkei Chaim is a very interesting sefer. It's actually a biography, the story of one of the great Gedolim in Poland, Reb Chaim Yankov Naftali Zilberberg. He was known in Poland as the Viershevarov. He was a real Gadol B'Yisrael, and I have a lot of stories to tell about him. But I'll just briefly say who was Reb Chaim Yankov Naftali Zilberberg, the Viershevarov. He was a chassid of the Sfas Emes. But he was Mishamish Rabbi Sol Salanter because he wanted to learn Darkei Musar. And in Lomdus, he was a Talmud of the Beis Halevi. That's a fabulous coalition. If you could be a Talmud of the Sfas Emes and Chassidus, of Rabbi Sol Salanter and Musar, and the Beis Halevi and Lomdus, can't get any better than that. Can't get any better than that. So it's no pele that he was a real Gadol and a tzaddik. And in Darkei Chaim, he speaks to his children, and he quotes Rabbi Lior Ragolar, the Yad Eliyahu, and he says, I want you to learn Le'ili Nishmosei, but when you say Kadish, don't say it for me. Only she is Gadol v'Kadish Me'Rabba. And then he writes a big Chiddush. And he says, there are two psukim in Kadish that you should bear me in mind. Yehei Shlomo Rabba. Because in this line, we clearly ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu, it's not about him, it's about us. Yehei Shlomo Rabba, Kol Yisrael. And also when we say, Oisei Shalom Aleinu, we have Shalom Aleinu. So in these psukim, you could bear me in mind, writes Reb Chaim Yankov Naftali, the Viershevarov. When you say, es Gadol v'Kadish Me'Rabba, any other kavana is pigul, is a machsheves psul. But when you say Yehei Shlomo Rabba, you say Shalom Aleinu, it is there that have me in mind, that you're doing this Le'ilu Nishmosi. So that's somewhat of a compromise. I don't understand why Mishnayos is okay to learn for them and Kadish not. What's the difference between Torah and Tefillah? And I once again say, when I said Kadish for my wife, when I learned for my wife, and I said Kadish for my father, and I davened for my father, Zechet Tzadikim Levrocha, I clearly bear in mind, I'm saying it, and I'm learning this for them, because I think that's Pshutom Shel Devorim, and that is Minig Oilam, as I quoted from various different sources. And I want to go beyond what Rabbi Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld says. He says, well, it's Kibudav. And if it's a stranger, it's not a mitzvah. It's a chesed. It's chesed shalemis. It's the greatest chesed you could do. To do chesed for a neshama. Because they could no longer do mitzvahs. And we could. So even if it's a stranger, it's not your father, I think it's a tremendous chesed. And the chesed wouldn't diminish and take away from the etzem Talmud Torah, or the etzem Tefillah, or the etzem Kadish. And this brings us to a very fundamental sugya. Twice in Shas, Rishon Davdalad and Psacham Navches, we learn, Huayma, Sela Zelet Tzedukah, Kadish Yechir Beni, Arei Zet Tzadik Gomor, Shiurim HaKayim Mitzvah Tzedukah. But you also want that the schus of this mitzvah Yechir Beni. And the Gemara says, Tzadik Gomer. So why does the Belior Ragala say, if you have in mind the Nishma, it's not worth anything? He says it's klum. It's totally void. Why would that be different than Sela Zelet Tzeduk Al Menashe Yechye Beni? So obviously I would say, Al Menashe Yechye Beni is a mitzvah. It's a chesed. We need to daven for the ill. So what would be bad about saying, no. But the Gemara seems to prove a different concept. How does it get into Psacham Davches? So the Gemara deals with Shlicha Mitzvah Einam Nezoikim. So the Gemara asks, what's the problem? The Gemara says, if somebody has a hole between him and a neighbor, he doesn't need to do B'dikas Chometz there, because there's a skona of akravim. There might be a scorpion or another venomous insect, and therefore he's put from the Ischumis. And the Gemara says, but if he's oisik in a mitzvah with the Ischumis, why does he need to be afraid of harm? Shlucha mitzvah in a zoikin. And the Gemara says, so maybe he has another thought in mind. He lost a coin, and he's going to look for his coin. And the Gemara says, even so, it still is a mitzvah. So the Gemara compares Almanah Sheyichi Beni to a person that B'shas B'dikas Chometz is looking for a coin. And looking for a coin is not a mitzvah. So, Pshat in that Gemara is not because Almanah Sheyichi Beni is a mitzvah. Actually, Tosfos deals with the question, both in Psochim and also in Avodas Zarah of Yutes. How does it fit in with the Mishnah Perek Aleph of Weiss Mishnah Gimel? Al tiu ka'avodim hamesham shemesarav almanas shekavar pas. Have kavodim hamesham shemesarav shalom almanas lekavar pas. Tosfos answers, if the only reason you're doing the mitzvahs almanas lekavar pas, that's very bad. That's very bad. That is what the Mishnah says. Al tiu kavodim hamesham shemesarav almanas lekavar pas. But if you're Makayim a mitzvah with all tamimus and dveikus and sincerity, but you also have another thing in mind, that even if that other objective would not be fulfilled, you still would be Makayim the mitzvah with the same passion. That is what Chazal say, Areze Tzadik Goma. I think Rashi means more or less the same when Rashi says, he is Makayim the mitzvah l'shem mitzvah, but he also has something else in mind. I still say that I feel very strongly when you're Makayim a mitzvah and you bear in mind Leilui nishmas ploini, that only enhances your mitzvah and it doesn't diminish it in any way. Because besides the gufa mitzvah, you're doing chesed. And chesed is so pure, so important. How would that diminish your mitzvah? How about almanah sheyichi beni? I think when the Gemara says, Selezer tzeduk almanah sheyichi beni, arez etzadik gomer, it means he still is etzadik gomer. Because the Gemara compares it to a person that takes advantage of dikas chumetz to look for a coin. That definitely doesn't enhance his mitzvah. So my feeling is this, and think about it. Almanach Sheyichi Beni is a great mitzvah, but it is also part of human nature. Everybody wants their children to live, Jew or non-Jew, a person of faith or an atheist. Everybody wants his child to live. And therefore, Almanach Sheyichi Beni is not always Kadish and Torah and sublime. It appears what type of a life you live. So when you daven on Almanach Sheyichi Beni, because that is Ratzon Hashem, because we want children that are doing Ratzon Avinu Shabashamayim, you want children to pass on the torch and the tradition that you received from your father and grandfather, from Avraham Avinu, from Moshe Rabbeinu, and you want to pass it on. That doesn't diminish the mitzvah at all. But most people, when they have in mind Almanach Sheyichi Beni, it's more than natural, the human nature, that you want to have children and you want to see them grow up, and therefore, in a way, it doesn't enhance the mitzvah of tzedakah, it would diminish the mitzvah of tzedakah. So the Rambam in Perek Yud of Hilchos Tshuva, when he quotes, Antigonus Eshoichoi, Al tia kavodem amisham shemesarav l'manash l'kavar pras. The Rambam says, Almanas l'kavar sachar b'yolam habo. And I have the same question. What is sachar l'yolam habo? What is it? Dveikus in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Tzadikim yoshvim v'atraseim b'rosheim v'ne'enem ezev hashchila. So what's wrong about wanting sachar l'yolam habo? I think that's the most sublime objective. Doesn't every Jew need to hope ultimately to get there? What is it about? You know, in some other religions, Olam Haba is all about lust and about taiva. We're different. Our Olam Haba is not about 770, whatever it is. Our Olam Haba is tzadikim yoshvim v'atrasayim berosayim v'nenem ezivashkenes. What's wrong about hoping and yearning and dreaming about being together with all the tzadikim b'tzel knofav shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu? And the Rambam calls it avodah she'eino ma'ahava. It's not really what we should be yearning to. So in the new Rambam, Shabsa Frankel, and the other new editions, there are different formulas. And in some of the Neschois, it's about schar oilam, without the word haba. So we don't know exactly what schar oilam means. But I want to say the same comment I said, al Menashe Yechia Beni. It depends what type of an oilam haba you're really dreaming about. Not everybody knows and appreciates and yearns for the real Olam Haba, which is Tzadikim, Yoshvim, V'atrasayim, and Neshama. Every individual with his own Olam Haba, with his own ideas of Olam Haba. So I once again say, if you are Mekayim Mitzvahs, and your dream and your goal and your hope is to make it to Olam Haba, Tachas Kanfei Ashchina, Tzadikim Yoshvim V'atrasayim Beroshayim, that does in no way diminish your mitzvah, it only enhances it. But if you think your Olam Haba is just about having fun and having a good time and living it up, that is what Antigone said. That's the Manas Lakaval Pras. So after all is said, I once again say, if you say Kadish, and you do bear in mind it should be Leilui Neshama for your parents, or even for a stranger, that is so pure and so sublime. It's not for your benefit at all. It's not for your benefit. It's the greatest chesed. Nothing wrong with that. V'lo kedivrei yad Eliyahu, v'lo kedivrei darkei chaim, ki minhag ha'olam. And all the other sources I quoted. Yes, we learn and we daven for them. However, the Divrei Malkiel, I love the Sefer Divrei Malkiel. Malkiel Tenenbaum is one of the greatest poskim in Lithuania, was the Rav of Lomzha, Chelik Dalet Simen Tzadik Vav. He speaks about people that say Kaddish for their parents, and he writes Musar. And he says some people are mezalzel b'mitzvahs and they don't learn a word and they're not honest with their business. But in the year after their parents' demise, they'll run to shul to say Kadish. And he says, you would do far more for their neshamas. If you're going to learn Daf Yomi, take some time to learn. He doesn't mention Daf Yomi because he was 50, 60 years older than a Meishap, But if you would learn and have kavon in your davening, and be honest and straightforward and trustworthy with your monetary dealings, you will do far more for the neshamas of your parents. So, if you say Kaddish and you think it's something like a lachash keneged ayin hara, it's like a kameya, that ain't worth much. But if you say Kaddish and your primary kavona is she is gadel v'yeskadei shamei rabba, and you also bear in mind Leilui Nishmas, doesn't diminish the Kaddish, it enhances it. Rabbi Lior Agalar was from the Beis Medrash from the Gaon and his great Talmud Reb Chaim Volozhin. And I think in a way he follows in their footsteps, in a way. Reb Chaim Volozhin, Nefesh HaChaim, which is his manifesto. Nefesh HaChaim Shar Beis, Perek Yud Aleph, says that in your tefillas you should only bear in mind Kvod Shemayim. Even in the brochas and tzoyos of Shmoyne Esrei, which are essentially Bekoshes Tzlachim, he says, no, you daven for Klal Yisrael, not for yourself. And all those brachas in Shmoines are formulated b'Loshen Rabim. And the Ike Kamona should be L'Shleimus Yisrael or L'Shemus HaShechina, which is a surprise to me, because the brachas Emtsoyos are defined as Bakoshes Tzrochim. And the Gemara says that a person should be Moisef Me'ein HaBracha. And it's a Sif in Shulchan Aruch, Kuf Yud Sif Aleph. Emoy Choyle B'Torch Beisoy, he davens in Refuenu. Emoy Tzorach L'Parnos, he davens in Borach Oleinu. So these are Bakoshes Tzrochim. So don't think for a moment that Chaim Volozhin forgot the Gemara and forgot the Shulchan Aruch. But he says it's not the derech of Yeshorim Bili Boisam. And Ketalmed Kotten Shebektanim Madanef Nera Boisam Bekarka. To me it seems to be very strange to say that the Gemara is a B'diavad and the Shulchan Aruch is a B'diavad. The Shulchan Aruch and the Gemara were given to Gedolei HaGedolim. And the Gemara says, your own personal tzrochim, you add on in brochas or in tzoyes and shmonesa. Is that a chasorim? Mogen avos of the Meiri. You know, when I teach Torah and I quote for them that not everybody is familiar with, I like to give some background. It's a fascinating sefer. And the Meiri wrote the sefer to defend Minhagei Ashkenaz v'Tzarfat against the attacks of Gedolei Sfarad. So he stood up for Minhagei Tzarfas and Ashkenaz, and that's why the sefer is called the Mogen Avos, because he comes to defend Minhag Avos of Inyan Chov Dalid. He speaks about Bakoshes Tzrochim and Shabbos, and his basic argument is, for the Rabbim, you could ask Tzorchei Rabbim in Shabbos. It's only a problem when you ask for your own personal individual needs, but Tzorchei Rabbim you could ask on Shabbos. And then he asks, so why don't we say Shabbos the brachas Emtsoyos? They're all Tzorchei Rabbim. And he makes a fascinating point. To me it has so much appeal. No. The brachas Emtsoyos are about your needs. Levakesh tzrochav. The formula is b'Loshen Rabbim. Because when a person has koilel atzmei Rabbim, tfilos miskabeles. It's like tfilos Rabbim. But it's only a question of formula. But what it's about is tzrochav. And that is why we don't say these brachas on Shabbos. It's not actually tzorchei Rabbim. It's about tzorchei yochi. We ask b'Loshen Rabbim because we see ourselves as part of the Rabbim. And that is why we don't say these brachas on Shabbos. So the Gemara and the Shulchan Aruch and the Meiri, it seems to be clear. We ask. There's nothing wrong with bakoshes tzrochav. So the Gimel Rishonis are shvochei shel makom. Gimel Achronis is like toida, giving gratitude. Brachas Emtsoyos are tzrochim. Yes, some of them are tzorchei Rabbim. Some of them are entirely about ruchnias. As semach davdav chomes atzmiach uvenei Yerushalayim. Yes, but brachas Efuenu and Borach Aleinu are about our personal needs, and there's nothing wrong with that. Rabbeinu Yoina. Milano Godel me Rabbeinu Yoina. Rabbeinu Yoina was the chassid, a chassid Rabbeinu Yoina. Rabbeinu Yoina was a brother-in-law and a mechutn with the Ramban. And there's a letter that the Ramban writes to his mechutn, his friend and his brother-in-law. And the title he writes, HaChassid HaKadosh. They were contemporaries. He writes a letter to him, not after his demise 100 years. HaChassid HaKadosh. And in Brochas of Dalad, when the Gemara says, Kol hasoymech geuli l'tfilo, muftach lo sheben olam haba, Rabbeinu Yoina says, why is that so important? And he says, Emunah needs to lead to betochen. Emunah needs to lead to Kabbalah Sol Malchus Shemayim. Emunah is Kriya Shema v'Berchaseh. That's Geula, Goal Yisrael, Yitzias Mitzrayim. And when we stand in Shmoneh Esrei, Levakesh Tzrochav miHaKadosh Baruch Hu, that is the essence of Kabbalah Sol Malchus Shemayim. It is a manifestation of our awareness that we can take nothing for ourselves. It is not koichi v'oitzim yodi she'osu li es kol hachayil hazeh. V'zocharto ki Hashem Elokecha hu anoisen lecho koyach lasos chayil. And that is an expression and a manifestation of Kabbalah Zal Malchus Shamayim. And that is why when we say Soymech Gula L'Tfilah, so according to Rabbeinu Yaina, there's nothing mundane, nothing wrong with Bakashas Tzrochim. It is the essence of Brachas Oem Tzoyos. Now, I am aware that the Makabolim have a totally different approach to Tfilas Amida, and it's all about the Oilemis and Oilem Atzilus. The point I want to make is not that this Kavana is better than that Kavana. Harbet Rocham Lamokoy. But Gedoyle HaGedoylem, starting off with Chazal and Rabbeinu Yoina, and the Shulchan Aruch that quotes Chazal, Beis Eloikim, the Mabit in Shar Huahava, Pere Gimel. What I learn with clarity from all these sources, Bakashas Tzrochim, is part of the essence of Avodas Sokeil and Kabbalah Zal Malchus Shamayim. It's not an Achuz Darga. It is so essential in Avodas Elokim and so important and so fundamental. Yes, standing humbly with total humility before Kadish Baruch Hu and pleading with Him. We have no power. We can do nothing on our own. Please listen to our prayers, to our needs, to our desperation, and bestow upon us your rachamim v'chasodim. That is Kabbalah Zal Malchus Shamayim. So coming back to the concept of learning Torah and davening and saying Kadish for the deceased, it is a very fundamental philosophical question. How could one person benefit from the mitzvahs of another? How could we benefit the Mason by learning for them? How do we understand learning for them? So I wrote a very important shuva, Minchas Osher Chelik Beis Menun Ches, and it also appears in Minchas Osher in Ala Torah, about the concept of Yisachar Zavulun. It's in Bereshis Parshas V'Yachi. So you pay in, you make a shutves, and you have a part in his Torah. How does this work? It's a very fundamental siman in Minchas Osher. I definitely recommend anybody that wants to understand a more profound understanding of Yisachar Zavulun to learn that siman. But what I want to just mention is the most important source in this sugya is Shuvas Maram Al Shekar Simakuf Aleph. Maram Al Shekar was one of the later Rishonim, going back 600 years. But the importance of this shuva is not Maram Al Shekar, but he quotes word by word a shuva that was written by Rav Hai Gaon, Godla Gaonim, about Yisachar Zavulun. And Rav Hai Gaon quotes the posuk, Tzidkas HaTzadik lo yiyeh, Rishas HaRosha lo tiyeh. Each and every person, Noisei alu moisav, you bear the consequences of your deeds and your actions, and no one else. Letav ulemutav, letoiv ulera. So Rav Hai Gaon says, Yisachar Zavulun is not a partnership. It's not a purchase. It's all about the schus of Tamchen Diurais, of Tamche Torah. You support Torah, and that's your mitzvah. That's a great schus. I suggested a different interpretation of Yisachar Zavulun, but it's not the scope of today's Shiur. So how do we understand the concept of doing mitzvahs for the deceased? How could they benefit for something someone else is doing? 3 Gedolei Rishonim dealt with this question, each of them in his own style, but I think basically they all say the same. Beis Yosef Tofresh Chof Aleph quotes the Sefer HaRokeach. The Rokeach was one of Chasidei Ashkenaz HaRishonim, going back more than 900 years. Tshuvas HaRashba, Siman Tov Kuf Lamed Tes, and Sefer Hasidim, Tofresh Hei. What they all say is, I don't know, I don't know, because they don't explain. But what they do say is, person cannot get reward for a mitzvah anyone else did. But it is somewhat helpful lahokel me'aleim oynish. Lamayed ba'oynish, la'oire rachamim. But the Sefer HaKeach does give us some insight, and he says, when you say Kadish for your parent, or you give tzedakah for your parent, Kadish Baruch Hu judges, if they would be able to come back to this world, would they do the same? And then, that is the way it works, and it helps them. Interesting. Lani is daiti. And this is a general comment. Lani is daiti. There is so much that we don't understand, and we cannot explain. Fundamentally, tzidkas atzadik loi tihiyeh, rishas harosha lo tihiyeh. But in the realm of Leilui Neshama, and we don't even know what it is, Leilui Neshama. Elevating the Neshama. Elevating to where? From where? Does that mean sachar? Does that mean reward? We know nothing about this entire realm. The Rambam writes an amazing line when he deals with Yemois HaMashiach. So we have lengthy sugyas and shas dealing with Yemois HaMashiach. But ultimately the Rambam writes, Elu devorim she'ein odom yodea eich yihiyu ad sheyihiyu. These are sugyas no one knows how it will be till it'll be. It is only then that we'll really know. And I say, Kal v'choyma ba'olam haneshomas. As long as you get there, nobody really knows exactly what it is. Yes, the Rishonim deal with it, the Makabolim deal with it, but it's all b'derech Moshe l'malitza. So we need to believe b'pashtus. Tomem tiyem Hashem alakecha. When you say Kadish for them, you learn Mishnayos for them. They have tremendous benefit. Not only moyel ktsas lahokel oynish. How do we understand it? We don't. How do we explain it? We don't. Their benefit is Leilui Neshama. What does that mean? How would I know? When we'll get there, we'll know. We should be zoiche. And we need to believe. And that is what the Zohar says in various different sources. Yes, you do it for them. And they have tremendous benefit from every Kadish you say, every Mishnah you learn, every cent of tzedakah you give. Yes, they have benefit. I don't understand how, I don't understand why, neither do I understand what. We don't know what, we don't know why, we don't know how, but we know that whatever we do for our deceased, for the loved ones that left us, yes, they have tremendous benefit.